suburbs and other dank places. So this is where we're at. This future age of opulence, prosperity, the future. The future of where we used to be when we lived in mud huts and straw huts and dug trenches in the ground with bits of stick in order to plant a potato. This is where we are today. Politicians failing to understand their position in life and acting like teams who compete against each other for what? I don't know. Power? Hardly. they don't have any power. They're basically restricted to doing the bidding of the wealthy and rich and opulent upper classes. Yet they're in this bind where they need the lower classes to vote for them. So they're in this dichotomy of who do I please? And they end up pleasing nobody. I think it was some con man who electrocuted an elephant somewhere in America that once said, you can fool some of the people all the time, and you can fool all of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time. I think that is the actual quote that he said. I'm quite pleased that I remembered that. I was able to vocalise it correctly. Politicians have got no idea what their position is in life anymore. In fact, politicians are no longer politicians. Most of them are either failed lawyers or very expensively paid politicians forever. They don't know what their job is. All they know is if they keep getting elected, they get rich. And my fucking God, don't they get rich. So it's beholden upon them never to put any tax burden upon rich people because they are rich people. Anyway, politicians, they treat politics as if it was a sport, especially in America, but not totally just in America. It's a two-sided sport, one team against the other. When they forget what the job of a politician is, they're a representative of the people who elect them. They're supposed to represent the interests of those people, not the people who pay for them to get elected. We all know who they are, the top 1% of the population, but they're supposed to represent 100% of the population. But fuck me, do you ever see that happening? No, you fucking don't. The problem with politicians and the media, on the whole, especially over the last 30, 40 years, is this.
You watched Joe Biden last night deliver his first address to a joint session of Congress. He repeated twice this proposition that we are a systemically racist country. Your reaction?
Well, it's a bunch of horse manure. I mean,
it's a bunch of horse manure that America is basically a racist nation. There is absolutely no denying the racism that is systemic in America, endemic around the world. And it's not that people in America, the white majority, at the moment majority, look down on black and brown people. In countries like India, it's not only racism, but it's also a hatred of the other religions. It's religious hatred. Muslims against Christians, Muslims against Hindus, Hindus against Christians, Hindus against Muslims, Christians trying to fight for their little corner. It's it's a fucking mosh pool of fucking, infight, murder, and mayhem. And you see this in loads of countries. If it's not the fucking fascists against the fucking socialists, it's the conservatives against the liberals, or it's the Christians against the Muslims, or the Muslims against the Hindu, or it is a fucking cesspool of fucking racism and bigotry right across the fucking world. And these people keep getting elected because they think it's a null-sum game. I don't believe it's a null-sum game. I believe that ordinary people, if they stop listening to things like MSNBC or Fox fucking News, would stop feeling that their life is in threat every day of their life and can actually get a chance to raise their head above the foaming waters of discontent and take a breath of normal life and put that behind them. No politician is going to do that. It's going to come as a populist movement. And I'm hoping that the generation that we call the Z generation, Z generation, whatever you call it, they might be the generation that's going to do that. But not if the fucking vegan, anti-liberal, cancel culture Zeds win. No. People need to be able to voice their opinion. Democracy started when two people sat in a room and disagreed with each other and came to a consensus that neither of them was right. Neither of them was right. But there was a medium path between them that they could both agree on. That was the start of democracy. Our democratic political system today, both in Europe and in America and in many other countries, has come down to two teams fighting and disagreeing about everything from each other and never actually listening to each other to find out if there's a path between us we can agree on. That is the problem with our politics, our media, and even the culture that we live within today. Nobody wants to sit and listen to the other side. Nobody wants to find the path between. We are so goddamn adamant that we are right. Nobody wants to give an inch to the other side. It's like that movie. The game is won in inches. You've got to fight for every inch. Well, when you get closer to the understanding in life that you're only going to be here for a very short period of time, the best thing you can leave behind is your DNA, not your voice, your words, but your DNA. Because the people who are going to continue on into the future are not the great orators or the great writers. Yes, we'll remember their words and we'll read their books, but they don't make the future. It's the people who actually are alive at the time that make the future. And they're going to be the people who survive life. Some people never progenerate. Some people never pass their genes down. Their line ends. They become extinct. You can even have 13 or 27 kids, but an earthquake, a tornado, or a war can murder your whole family. And your family's now out of the gene pool. Nobody can understand what it is that does that. COVID probably wiped out some families in the last 18 months around the world. Some people have been wiped out of existence. Some people's genes will not go into the future and be the people that decide to make the world a better or worse place, doesn't matter which. Because over time, we all die. And if we haven't left some of our seed here to flourish on the earth, your genetic material is gone. You're extinct. You, as a family line, are extinct. It doesn't matter whether you fought for the Democrats, the Liberals, the Socialists, the Communists, the Conservatives. It doesn't matter if you loved chicken or pork or fucking vegan food. If your genes die, none of your DNA lives on to procreate and give spawn to the next generation. You know what? You're extinct. Your line dies out. You've gone the way of the dodo and the dinosaur. You're no longer even a thought in the world. They're all too busy like this fucking asshole and the bitch that fucking asked them the question.
Give me a break.
Well, Republicans nowadays seem to lack any real governing agenda, meaning they can't tell you what they're for. They have no problem telling you what they're against.
And that's a problem. It's all very well being upset about shit and saying, oh my God, people, why can't they just see the world like the way I see it? But the problem is that doesn't get you anywhere. Oh, look at those people doing this. I fucking hate that. Look at those goddamn kids skateboarding in the park. Oh, look at, it's like, just calm the fucking shit down, Karen and Ken. Give it a fucking break, you know what I mean? If we thought anything about our children, we would give them somewhere to go and skate. We would give them something to do other than annoy you in the park. But what did we do with all those parks and free areas and grounds that we used to have for kids back in the 70s and 60s? Yeah, we sold them all to corporations to build fucking office blocks on. We sold all the parks. We shut down all the greenland within our cities and we sold them for millions of pounds to corporations to build gigantic buildings which are now lying empty because nobody can afford to rent them. That's what we did in the last 40 years. We fucked our whole fucking society. Now, I'm willing to argue with people about that. Won't we discuss what we do about fucking redressing that idea? Or even if my idea is true, I'm willing to discuss it and talk about it and find a way that we can rebalance the circumstances that we're living today. What I'm not willing to do is just give up and say, it's too hard and let's just let the millionaires have that green space that used to be there. Let's just sell all the park land and all the school playgrounds and all the libraries. Let's just sell them off, all the corner shops. Let's just sell them off to big corporations to build office. Because if that's the way that life's going, well, let's just put our hands up and say, keys, on you go. It's too difficult to fucking fight against you. Or we can fight against them. We as people can decide that we're not going to give our vote to politicians who talk all the time about tax breaks for the millionaires and tax raises for the working class. We're not going to vote anymore for people who say we're going to keep jobs here in this country and then give tax breaks to companies to ship jobs overseas. We need to pay attention to what's going on. Don't just listen to your politician for the couple of weeks before you go and vote. Watch what they do. Watch what they do. Watch how many of them get into financial, political, and criminal difficulties during the years when they're not running for office. And if they are getting into that sort of trouble, refuse to give them your vote. Even if they are, dyed in the wool, your colour of politician. Sometimes it's right to turn and say, yeah, he's my colour of politician, Democrat, Republican, but he's not my kind of person. I know what people say, they hated Trump, but they voted for him because he spoke truth to power, which he never ever did. But they were convinced. But the bullshit they heard on fucking Fox News, and it's the same with the Democrats. I never thought that Hillary Clinton was a good candidate, yet she ended up being the candidate running against Trump. Bernie Sanders would have been a better candidate. Guaranteed he would probably have won against Trump if the Democrats had got behind him. But they fell into the same old sad sandpit of believing what the Republicans were saying against Sanders, what the media was saying. The media is not always your friend. They're not always telling you the truth. Your fucking politicians very rarely are telling you the truth. So don't listen to your politicians and be very careful with what news you fucking listen to. But instead, look at your life when you sit around the table and talk to your wife or your girlfriend and your kids about where you see yourself in 5 years. Look at the pamphlet that came through your door from your local politician asking for your vote. Read it and then go online and fact check if any of that is true. And don't just listen to the first 3 or 4 fucking hits you get from his campaign. Don't just listen to the next 4 or 5 from his opponent. Go down about 20 or 30. Look for someone independent and read that and see what they say. Because you're not going to get the truth from the politician you're supposed to vote for or the politician who's against them. But you might get some truth from the politician who's in between them and doesn't really care. He's just trying to tell you the truth. Because he knows or she knows they're not going to be elected. They're just trying to tell you the truth to wake you up. And that get woke stuff that's going around, please. That's another fucking mean soundbite piece of shit you don't want to listen to. Nobody is woke. There's no such thing as woke. It's just a soundbite.
Like so-called wokeness, Biden's made-up ban on red meat, and democracy. So far, Republican legislatures in more than 40 states have introduced hundreds of bills targeting voting access and seizing authority over administering elections. Yesterday, Florida became the latest state to pass a bill that will make it harder for millions of people to vote by putting restrictions on drop boxes and voting by mail.
The woke culture, the cancel culture. So, let me ask you, if you live in a town with 350,000 people in it, well, let's call it a city, and you've got one drop box for all 350,000 people to fucking put their voting fucking letter into, do you think you're being treated the same as a town that's got like 180 people and they get a box all to themselves? Just think about it. A town with 180 people gets a fucking drop box, and a city with 350,000 people gets one drop box. Is that fair? And if you say I don't care, then fuck you. You're not a fucking democratic person, you know. You don't fucking, you're a fascist motherfucking cunt. Everybody should have the right to not take too long off your work to go and vote. I believe that you should have a day off. There should be a voting day when everybody gets a day off and paid for it. And you've got all day to go and vote. From fucking 8 in the morning to 10 at night. You've got the whole fucking day, one day to go and vote. And you get paid for it as well. Like a bank holiday, you know. Why not? And why shouldn't there be a drop box if you wanted to, you know, vote early and drop it in a mail? Why shouldn't there be a drop box at every post office? Every single fucking post office, a drop box right there in the centre of the fucking floor inside your fucking post office. Anytime the post office is open, you can walk in there and put it in that drop box and then post it. It doesn't need to be out in the street. Everybody knows where the local post office is. So you walk in there, boom, in the box. It's protected, there's cameras on it, nobody can fucking fuck with it, you know. Why can't you have that? Why is it one box for a city of fucking 350,000? You know what I mean? Nobody knows where it is. It could be in any fucking street corner, and they might even move about day to day, so you never know where it is. And who the fuck knows what they're doing there? Right? So, fraud, passive voting law includes restrictions on vote by mail and drop boxes. Yes. And what about the other law, where you can't go down when your grandmum or your mum or your sister is waiting in line to vote? You can't go down there and give her a fucking bottle of water and a sandwich. You could get arrested for it. I know people going to say, oh, well, if you say, well, it's my sister and my mum, they're not going to arrest you. But how do you fucking know? If you're Mexican or black, Puerto Rican, or, you know what I mean? They might just arrest you anyway, and then you've got to fucking argue it out in court. I bet you white people aren't getting fucking arrested for taking a sandwich and a bottle of water down to the fucking mum. No, because they're not waiting in line for 11 fucking hours. Because they've got one box for fucking 150 or 180 people, and yous have got a box for 350,000. So you're going to be waiting in line for 11 hours, and you can't have a drink of water or a sandwich. It's illegal. This is fucking ridiculous, man. I've got my voter card here. Right. I got it last fucking month. Yes. Let me get this out. Where's my voter card? I've got a voter card that turned up. It's in it somewhere. See, I didn't have to go down and register to vote, you know that? I didn't need to go and register to vote. I was registered to vote when I turned 16. Britain, we have automatic registration. Automatic registration when you come of age. Oh, there is this. Oh, there is that info. You can't see it, can you? Oh my God. Right, okay, I've got to turn this off. So, there we go. Right, so there's my phone card, right? Poll card. I go and vote. Bang. 36th of May, 2021, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Voting hours, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. I've got a polling place. I've got a date. you know, and I'm registered. They contacted me and says, do you want to actually vote by mail, or do you want to go and vote, in person? And I ticked vote by mail for my parents, and I ticked vote in person for myself, because while I can still walk to the polls, to the polling place, I'm going to vote in person. And do you know what? Do you know how long it takes me to go and vote? It takes me about 20 minutes. And that's by leaving my door, because my polling place is like 5.5 minutes away. I go in, I go up and I show my card. They give me a bit of paper, I go in the booth, I tick who I'm going to vote for, I fold it up, go back to the table and put it in a box. And then I say, thank you, ladies, and I walk home. Maybe stop outside for a cigarette. Think I've done my duty. As a citizen, I've voted. And then I walk home, like less than 20 minutes, you know what I mean? Seeing lines of people in America, lines of people in America waiting 11 hours to cast their vote. I'm thinking, what the fuck is going on? How is this a thing in America? And having to show fucking ID. That's my ID. That's my ID. That, and the fact that I know my fucking postcode and my name. I know my actual name and the postal address that was fucking sent to. That should be enough fucking identification. Because unless I'm dead, I'm going to turn up without that card and just tell them my postcode. And they will just go down, oh, your name, your postcode. Yep. Nobody's been in and used your fucking, your vote yet, so yes, you can vote. Now, if 2 people turn up saying the same, then there's a fucking problem. But it doesn't happen. 2 people don't turn up with the same name and the same fucking postcode. It just doesn't happen. How the fuck can't you work a fucking system like that out in America? You've got zip codes, haven't you? I'm sure zip codes aren't for the whole block of houses. I'm sure each zip code is for each individual fucking house. So you've got your zip code and you've got your name. So when you go in there and they've got a list of fucking names and postcodes for, every person in the district who's eligible to vote, and you go in and you say, this is my name, this is my postcode. They go down and go, oh, there we are, we've got you. Chick, here's your ballot. And if somebody else comes in asking for it, they go, oh, wait a minute, we've got to give it to somebody. Oh, so you put a mark in another saying, this is questionable. 2 people have come in and given the same name. And by the way, hold that person and let's see if we can find the person who's already voted. Let's check the cameras and find out where they came in. Did they come in the car? Check his fucking, license plate and find him, drag him in and find out which one of them's a real person, It can't be that fucking hard to check this shit out. It's not like hundreds of millions of people are doing it. It's like one person in fucking 300 million. It's like one person in fucking 25 million. They're always Republican fuckers signing the, voting for their dead wife or their dead mother or some fucking. It's always fucking Republicans. The cunts are trying to fucking say, oh, there's a lot of fraud going on. Yeah, you cunts are doing it.
It does not include the provision that banned people from giving food and water to voters waiting in line. Republicans softened the language to instead ban anyone from, quote, engaging in any activity with the intent to influence or the effect of influencing a voter.
Well, how do you know whether it's influencing a voter? It's already illegal to buy somebody's vote because that used to go on. Way back in the day, people used to give people beers if they would vote for a candidate. They used to give people $1 to go and vote for a candidate. You had to go in and cast your vote, come out and prove that you'd vote for that person. They'd give you $1 or give you a beer. That was made illegal in America. So you've already got that made illegal. The influence to affect a person's vote. It's already illegal. So what the fuck is this? Doubling down on making it illegal to entice people to vote for someone by paying them or ingratiating them, for their vote. I mean, it's already illegal. You made it illegal back in the fucking 1800s. What the fuck? How is the Republicans trying to double down on this? There's already laws in existence to stop this shit. So what's this all about? Well, it's certainly not about protecting the vote, is it? It's about frightening people of colour and perhaps even new citizens who have just recently become citizens through an arduous fucking slog of 10 or 20 years. I went through an arduous test that most, Native Americans, I don't mean native as in Red Indians, I mean Native American, white Americans who didn't have to go through the process of becoming a citizen. Most of you motherfuckers would fail the fucking citizenship test. It's been proven.
I'm joined now by Florida State Senator Chevron Jones, a Democrat representing parts of Broward and Miami-Dade counties, and Ari Berman, senior reporter for Mother Jones, whose latest piece is called Florida Republicans Just Passed a Georgia-Style Voter Suppression Bill.
Let's go off with that, right? Done the voter fucking
I want to bring
thing.
in Democratic Congressman Ted Lieu of California, who is calling for Republican leader Kevin McCarthy to remove Matt Gaetz from the House Judiciary.
Yeah. Dear GOP leader, why have they talked to each other on fucking Twitter? Please remove Representative Matt Gaetz from the House Judiciary Committee immediately. The committee has jurisdiction over the Department of Justice that is investigating Representative Gaetz, including allegedly for sex crimes with a minor. This is an untenable conflict of interest. Yes, it fucking is. An untenable conflict of interest. Matt Gaetz should not be on the fucking the committee, Judiciary Committee in the House. No fucking way should he be on that. He should have himself recused himself from working on that committee until this is over. That would be the moral and correct fucking thing to do if you were an innocent person and knew that you would be found not guilty of any of these charges. But unfortunately, Matt Gaetz is a fucking dick. And his friend, who took money from Matt Gaetz to pay a 17-year-old girl to have sex with him, and has written that down in letters that he gave to fucking, what do you call him? Steele or some fucking, anyway. Some other fucking Trump fucking wanker. He wrote it down on paper and gave it to him. And he took fucking screenshots of text messages on an app on his phone that Gaetz thought were going to be deleted as soon as they'd finished their conversation. This wanker took screenshots of them, and now they've ended up in the hands of the press. Now, don't get me wrong, politicians do get hounded by the press occasionally for no good reason. But I don't think that's the case with Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz appears to me to be a fucking paedophile cunt. Like the guy who's about to go to jail for having sex with a 17-year-old girl. Now, do I agree with that? To be honest with you, the legal age in Scotland is 16. It has been for 100 odd, 200 odd years. So no, I don't think it's a worthy sort of like charge against them. But you're in America. 18 is your legal age. Matt Gaetz should have fucking known that, paid attention to it, and not tried to fucking hide it. If he was going to pay women for sex, he should have made sure they were all over fucking 18. That's on him. He knows the legal age. He's a fucking representative for the people. If he doesn't know the law, he shouldn't be a law fucking maker. Simple as that. I don't believe it's a fair charge, because in Britain it's 16. And I believe that people of 16 are able to make up their mind. But you do have other charges that, transporting people across borders, even if they're over 16, even if they're 18 or 20 or 21, transporting them across borders for the purveyance of sex is illegal as well in America. So he broke that law. He has definitely broke that law, as have many other people in his circle. Not just is it the hand surgeon come hot entrepreneur? Yeah, you broke the law. If you live in America, it's beholden upon you, especially if you're a rich person, you might be a target, a politician who might be a target, from the other side, you need to be aware of the rules and laws that you're possibly breaking when you go out for a night out on the town, and make sure you're not breaking those laws. That's upon you. Saying you didn't know the law is no defence, Matt Gaetz. Anyway, I find it hilarious that this fucker been involved in a charity about saving the children, when basically in the eyes of Americans he's on about paying children to have sex with him. And then seeing other people who are blaming him for it, other people doing it. Projection, typical projection from a typical horrid man. And this Ted Lieu, yeah, he needs to be very careful. I know he's pushing, he's a Democrat. I know he's pushing for Matt Gaetz to fucking step down, or for the GOP leader to force him to step down, or remove him from the Judicial Committee of Judiciary. I mean, it's like, sometimes, Ted, right? You need to be very fucking careful, because you don't know what's in your background, what you did at college, it's going to come up, unless you've never done anything wrong in your life. But I don't know anybody who's never done anything wrong in their life. Nobody. We've all done something when we were fucking kids, when we were 16, 17, 18. We've all done it. Right? This is not a thing. You should leave it to the press to fucking dig and find and publicise it. And then it's up to you to make your comment on what the press say. Either I agree with the press says, but it's not for me to be telling other politicians what to do. They should be working on their own conscience, their morals, and the ideology that they work for the people. And maybe it's better sometimes to step back until it's worked out and proven, or non-proven, and then you can work for the people again. Yeah, I mean, that would be my Ted Lieu, demand and be removed. No, I don't think you should demand anything. I think you should keep your mouth shut. I think you should say, if it's true, it's despicable, but I believe that Matt Gaetz is entitled to the legal understanding that he's innocent till proven guilty, and I'll leave it up to the Justice Department to deal with it. And I leave it up to Matt Gaetz and his moral beliefs whether he should step down or not. I'm not here to tell him what to do. Because it's going to happen anyway. Eventually, when it gets so real and in your face, people will say to him, you've got to step down. You should let the press publicise it. That's a First Amendment, freedom of the press. Politicians should keep their fucking mouth shut and say, I basically have no comment on it. It's not for me to fucking, decry the other side. This is where we can get consensus, where you can actually start to meet with Matt Gaetz' other representatives on the other side, if you're a Democrat, and speak to them from a position of, well, I never spoke out against them. I left it up to what was going on in the Justice Department and the truth to come out. You should not be Ted Lieu speaking out and demanding this sort of thing. Not from another member of the House, right? Different to the President. When it's blatantly fucking obvious that he has broken his fucking vow, his oath to the people, that's a different thing. Yeah, I do believe that Trump should have been impeached twice and found guilty twice, but that's just me. I'm not an American, so I'll leave it to you to decide. But
Judiciary Committee immediately. Congressman, why is it so important to remove Matt Gaetz from the Judiciary Committee?
Thank you, Zelina, for your question. Like all Americans, Congressman Matt Gaetz is entitled to the presumption of innocence, but he is not entitled to sit on the House Judiciary Committee. That is an honor and a privilege. And this.
Yes, he has started off with saying the right thing. He's entitled to the presumption of innocence. And the Justice Department, who is investigating him, will find out whether there's anything there or not. And you should have left it there. I'm a social capitalist. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a fucking Republican. I'm a social capitalist, right? If you don't understand that meaning, look it up. I'm more in line with Bernie Sanders and any other politician in America. This Leo guy should have shut his fucking mouth after saying he's entitled to the understanding of innocent till proved guilty, and then he should have shut the fuck up.
This committee has jurisdiction over the Department of Justice, which is the very department that has opened a criminal investigation in which Matt Gaetz is a subject. That is a clear conflict of interest, and Leader Kevin McCarthy must remove Matt Gaetz from the committee immediately.
The leader of the Republicans in the House has his own mind. It's up to him what he does. Now, Leo should have not said any of these things about the man. We all know he's a dick. Not Leo, but the leader of the Republicans in the House. But for Leo to come out and start telling him what to do, that is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. People in a position of power are not going to be spoken to like this by someone who's an underling basically to them in their eyes. So, what did you gain? You got a couple of minutes on TV. People remember you saying this. It's going to be brought up in many other news clips over the next day or two, and then it will be forgotten. And you have not progressed your position as a politician. And you've actually denigrated your position as a politician of speaking out against someone who you've got no idea whether he's guilty or not. And therefore you should keep your mouth shut and let it work its way through the courts. And when he gets arrested, then you can turn around and say, well, how did the leader of the GOP, not know about this? Didn't he speak to Gaetz? Of question him and find out whether he should have been removed from his position. That's when you say these things, Lou, after the fact, not before. Don't get ahead of your horse. It will fucking run over you. I don't understand. Politicians, fuck me. He's not that young either. He must have lived his life. He must have went through school. He must have seen bullying and how it works out, how it all filters down eventually, things resolve themselves. And yet here he is, sticking his neck out, getting out over the nose of his own fucking horse.
Immediately.
Why are you asking for this to happen? Why isn't Kevin McCarthy speaking up and saying...
Yeah, why are you asking? You're not part of the GOP. You've got nothing to do with the other side of the house. You're a Democrat. It looks bad. It just stirs up the fucking support in his base. Does it help him when you speak it? Why are you opening your mouth? You're making it harder for things to fucking resolve themselves. Stop stirring the fucking water.
Matt Gaetz should step down from his committee assignments himself?
I am on the House Judiciary Committee, and I believe this is a conflict of interest. I hope...
If you think this is a conflict of interest, you should have maybe gone to Matt Gaetz and spoke to him privately as a friend and a colleague. It says to him it will look better if you step down, wait for this to resolve itself and then come back. And then you could speak out and say, see, this is what happens when you're in my position. You could have spoke to the leader of the GOP, the minority leader in the House. You could have spoke to him and said, I think it would be a better idea if Matt stepped down for a while and someone else took over his duties until this was resolved. But to go on TV like this, trying to score political points, you look no better than fucking all the Trumpists that have been doing it for the last 4 fucking years. Mr. Leo. I don't like this. I just don't.
Republican leader Kevin McCarthy also sees that this is a conflict of interest. And, for a party that in the past used to proclaim family values, this seems very antithetical to family values.
Do you think he should resign from Congress entirely, Matt Gaetz?
So again, Representative Gaetz...
For Mother Jones, whose latest piece is called Florida Republicans Just Passed a Georgia-Style Voter Suppression Bill, and who...
The allegations are true.
What?
And Representative Gaetz did, in fact, either pay for sex with a minor or entice a minor for sex. Under federal law, that is a mandatory minimum sentence of 10 years.
Doesn't matter what you think he might be charged with or what he's been involved in. You don't know. You're not the judge or jury of Matt Gaetz. You're a fellow colleague in the House of Representatives, and you should not be impinging your opinion or espousing what you've heard on local TV and news shows. If you can actually say anything about any evidence you've seen, then you shouldn't be fucking talking about the man. And I guarantee this guy can't say anything he's seen pass across his desk that says that Matt Gaetz is guilty. Therefore, he should not be talking this way, that this is what he's possibly going to be investigated and charged with. Well, that doesn't matter. Got nothing to do with your position as a representative of the people. You do your job, Matt Gaetz does his job, and if Matt Gaetz doesn't want to step down, it's only going to be worse for him. If it's true that he's done these things, it's only going to be worse for him and the GOP members who defended him when it all comes out in the wash. You should shut your mouth and then talk about it after the fact when it all comes out. And then you can actually speak from fact rather than possibilities and maybe this and maybe that. So it's like, God, stop the maybe fucking shit. You know what I mean?
And then there's already Florida state law that makes it illegal for anyone over 23
Yeah, we know that there's laws that's against this and against that, but have you got any evidence that Matt Gaetz has broken any of these laws? Not yet. Leave it to the press and leave it to the judicial system. You are not supposed to be doing this. You're supposed to say, I really have no comment on the Matt Gaetz thing. He will work it out himself with himself and his God or whatever. And the leader of the minority in the House needs to consider his position. That's all I've got to say about it. That's all you've got to say, mate. At the moment, that's all you've got to say because you've got no evidence. You can't bring anything up. You can't speak to anything you've seen because it's behind closed doors. You know, God damn. Don't leak anything. You know.
To have sex with a minor, and that is punishable by up to 15 years of imprisonment.
Hypocrisy these days, I mean, particularly in this post-Trump era, I don't know that this version of the Republican Party cares that much. If we say, hey, you're being hypocritical, you asked Katie Hill to resign, you asked Al Franken to resign without proof of their guilt. It was preempted. Do you think that Republicans care about hypocrisy at this point? You know, Matt Gaetz is still in Congress, and I don't nearly hear anybody except Adam Kinzinger saying that there's a problem here.
You remember all the Democrats who were fucking resigned because somebody said, oh, he touched my bum. Well, he touched my bum at this gala or whatever, you know what I mean? And it's like, oh, that's it, you know, before I get impeached, before I get pulled in front of the morals board of I'm going to retire. You know, she mentioned the guy's name. I think it was one of the only, was he one? Yeah, it was one of the only openly gay members of the House, I think. And he was, I think it was a comedian or something at one time. No, and he just, like before, become the, God, what was his name? She mentioned him, didn't she? Let me see what she said.
Republicans care about hypocrisy at this point. You know, Matt Gaetz is still in Congress, and I don't nearly hear anybody except Adam Kinzinger being hypocritical. You asked Katie Hill to resign. You asked Al Franken to resign.
Al Franken.
Without proof of their guilt.
Yeah, Al Franken, to me, a very genuine man. He might not have been. No, I think I'm mixing Al Franken with another guy. God, I can't remember his name. But he was, you know, the other guy was an openly gay representative. Al Franken, but he was a comedian. Yeah, so I've got those two things conjoined and mixed, right? But Al Franken was a comedian, yeah. And he was accused of groping people when they were taking selfies with them. And, you know, and you know what? I can understand that. I do. I'd be for a drink and you're having fun. You know, come and give me a hug, and you grab that. You think they're going to find it fun as well. You're a fun guy. You're having fun, and then they don't say anything at the time. But then this accusation comes up, and suddenly 10 women come up. Oh yeah, when he was taking a selfie with me, he groped my bum. I've got to say, I don't find that obscene. Not as obscene as paying a 17-year-old to have sex. Not to say that Matt Gaetz is guilty of it. He's accused of it. But, you know, this guy was only accused of feeling women's bums. I mean, Joe Biden was accused of touching people's hair. Do you remember that scandal the Republicans put forward? Joe Biden, he touches people's hair when he's close to them and whispers in their ear, it's you know what I mean? That's a level of almost having to resign. He touches people's hair. He touched their bum and gave her a pat in the ass. You know what I mean? It's like, God damn. Republicans, Donald Trump, being accused by, I think there's fucking 19 women or 16 women of basically sexual assault, never had to fucking resign. Never had to, and he even fucking said it on camera. Yeah, you can grab them by the pussy, and if you're rich and famous, you can get away with it. I walked into the changing rooms of these teenage girls because I was able to go in there and just, I'm in here inspecting I'm inspecting the room because I'll own the fucking competition. Yeah, Donald Trump said these things. Not a single person, not even this country, I don't think, asked for him to resign or step down or remove himself from the run for presidency. Just you shut the fuck up and let things fucking work their way through the fucking system. You know what I mean? Shut the fuck up, let the fucking press and shit do their job, let other people talk about it. Your job is to say, no comment, I can't speak about another member of the House in such a bad way as to impugn his integrity. You know what I mean? That's your fucking job. You do that for Democrats and you do that for fucking Republicans. Which all me all use cunts is you're all fucking cutthroat bastards and think you're going to fucking get a leg up on somebody somewhere if you fucking get rid of them. It's fucking ridiculous, man. Fucking young eating, they ain't young.
It was preempted. Do you think that Republicans care about hypocrisy at this point? Matt Gaetz is still in Congress, and I don't nearly hear anybody except Adam Kinzinger saying that there's a problem here.
I'm glad that Adam Kinzinger has spoken out. I hope more Republicans speak out. I believe every Republican member of Congress should be asked why they still support having Matt Gaetz on the House Judiciary Committee. And again, this doesn't have to do with whether or not Matt Gaetz did these allegations. It has to do with that he's under a criminal investigation from the very department over which the House Judiciary Committee has oversight. It's simply a conflict of interest. The Republicans can put someone else on the committee temporarily. It's not like they're going to lose a slot. We're simply you can't have Matt Gaetz there.
Yeah.
Okay, this one's a fun story. I first learned to.
I would say that's good. Matt Gaetz should have the sort of self-realization of what's going on to step down. The leader of the GOP in the House should have the presence of mind to ask Matt Gaetz to step down and then remove him if he won't and put someone else into his position and, as an interim, an interim reserve, until this either blows over or resolves itself in some way. But I don't think Liu should be fucking calling for it, or any Democrat should be calling for it. They should, behind the scenes, talk to Matt Gaetz and the minority leader of the House and try and convince them that it's the right thing to do. And if they don't do it, they can then talk about it later when it resolves itself to say, well, I did approach them and told them it, and they paid no attention. And that would work out better for you than going on TV and spouting this shit now. It looks bad. It looks like there's some kind of conspiracy on the side of the Democrats to the Republican base who support Matt Gaetz. It looks like you're attacking him and you're trying to force this to happen. Whereas if you said nothing while it was going on and talk to them behind the scenes, and then when it resolves itself, come out and say what you did, that would be so much stronger a position. My God, politicians today don't understand politics. They just don't. It looks bad, Mr. Liu. It looks bad what you're doing. Keep your fucking mouth zipped. wait for fucking what's going to happen, and then you can say what you did behind the scenes and what was refused and how you were rebuffed, and it makes them look even worse than them fighting back against your openly public statements about what should be happening, as if you're telling the leader of the minority what to do, how to control his caucus. That's not your job. Your job is to vote the right way for the people in America, the people you represent, not to talk shit about fucking another representative. You let the Republicans do that, and then when Benghazi turns out after 8 fucking inquiries to be a load of shit, you can turn and say, see, they talk shit, they fucking smack talk us all the time, and they've got nothing. You know what I mean? That's what you do. God damn. Anyway, I think I'm done for the conversation. I think there's a lot to say about Biden's speech, but that might be for another day. 100 days, almost 200 million people injected, 150 million injections given out, over 100 million having their second inoculation. I mean, these are getting there, you know? And Biden was the person who fucking initiated all that. Trump did nothing for a whole fucking year. A whole year. Trump did nothing but help people to fucking get sick by doing nothing about COVID. 100 days, Biden has got America back on track, better than most of the world. Not quite, but yeah, reasonably better than what Trump did. And it's demonstrable as well. So, yeah, 1 million jobs in 100 days. Views to create perhaps 100 million jobs over the next 5 to 10 years. My God, his scope of improving America is so huge. Britain can't even understand what's going on. 4 years of Trump and then this. And it's like, God damn, the next 100 days, what the hell is Biden going to do? We don't know, but fuck. Wish I had a fucking politician in my country doing the shit that Biden's doing right now, I fucking tell you. Anyway, sound you fucking fat motherfuckers.